Well, good Monday morning from the Oklahoman's video studio. Dave Morris alongside Mike Knopp, Executive Director of the Oklahoma City Boathouse Foundation. The Olympics in Rio are underway, and this man has been working with various athletes and has a great knowledge of what's going on over there. How are you, sir?
I'm great.
Before we get to the Olympics, you had a big event this weekend, which will tie into Olympics on down the road. The national championships were held this weekend. How'd it go?
It was great. It was unique because we had two different national championships this weekend. One for sprint canoe kayak and one for whitewater slalom. So two completely separate events have never been held in conjunction with one another here in Oklahoma City. And so really what it represented is the athletes on the water, that's the next generation. So those are athletes that we hope to see representing the U.S. in Tokyo and beyond. So it was it's really neat that they were kicking off their national championships while the Rio Olympics was also kicking off, and it really makes you optimistic about the future when you see these athletes out there on the water competing and doing so well. And then specifically for Oklahoma City, we're a very young program in the scheme of things in this sport, and to have so many athletes just perform so well over the weekend. I get asked a lot, when are we going to see Oklahoma City kids make it to the Olympic podium? And I can say we're on our way, and I think we're going to see that here in the future. Over the weekend we had 9 gold medals. These are national champions. 28 silver medals, 23 bronze medals. A lot of great stories where our athletes really came out on top, like in the under 14 division, which is a highly competitive division. Our two guys were at the top in that division, Colin McMullen and Camden Sexton, and it was neat because one of them is from Moore and one's from Edmond, and they're best friends, and they kind of represent that leading edge of that part of the sport on the under 14 men. And then just Shad Isaac on para canoe. Really exciting to see how he's making so many great improvements, and Nicole Mallory and Delaney Valentine and just many others who performed so well over the weekend. And I think we should be excited to see where our athletes are going to take us in the future in representing Oklahoma City.
You mentioned the under 14 age range, which puts them, 18, 22 for upcoming Olympics. But what is the age range for an Olympian? I remember interviewing Casey Eichfeld earlier this summer. I believe he's in his 20s. So what is a typical age range?
Well, in canoe kayak, it's sort of different than rowing, and it's different between sprint and slalom. But typically, you get up in that in your early 20s is generally a time period when you're really seeing athletes excel, sometimes younger, sometimes older. We've got one of the exciting things this year in Rio, in fact, is we've got athletes who are a little bit older, in their 30s, in
hardly seems old.
Yeah, in canoe kayak. So I mean, a little different than women's gymnastics, I guess is what I'd say.
Sure. Although last night you were watching the gymnastics, some were 16, and there was one lady who was 41. Clearly, she was the outlier, but still. Yeah. Speaking of the Rio Olympics, the racing is underway there, but wind is a factor.
Yes, wind is a factor. It's the rowing races did kick off on Saturday, and boy, they're 2,000 meters long, and that middle 1,000 was a real test for the athletes. Really challenging. Some boats actually capsizing. And that's something you really don't expect in an Olympics. And but they made it through. And one of the things that is really exciting is the men's lightweight 4, the Oklahoma City-based boat. Representing Team U.S. Rowing, Team USA, they did really well. Their heat was on Saturday, their first, and they took second, very strong second. They're close to first, and so they're going to be racing again. Of course, I believe later today. So it's going to be exciting to see how they progress. But they're looking strong.
We mentioned that the rowing again, it's set for today. So is some of the whitewater events, and the two guys you mentioned, Casey Eichfeld and Devin McEwen, who won their way to Rio here
yes.
are competing today as well.
They are, and that's a fun event to watch. I encourage everyone to tune in for that and to see another new whitewater venue in action with the Rio course, and see those athletes who qualified here. And again, over the weekend here in Oklahoma City, we had the next generation of those athletes, training and competing and so we're just getting started with whitewater, so we don't have any young athletes yet, but that's going to change real soon. So.
Yeah, but you saw that with the rowing as well.
We did.
Yeah. There you have it.
Yeah.
Not an Olympic athlete, but I believe there was some more corporate rowing over the weekend as well. My friend Ben Harris was out there Sunday afternoon with his crews. So they have no Olympics in their crosshairs. However, lots of people enjoy
it is ramping up. And one of the things we tell our athletes, though, and this includes the corporate rowers, I mean, they're all aiming for their race, their big race. And for them, for the athletes that were here in Oklahoma City, their national championship was like their Olympics. They've been training all year long for that. So that's a really big deal, just like the athletes in Rio. I mean, that's obviously, that's something they're very focused in training on. And so it's all relative. It's what you're focused and training on.
Well, it's like with any workout, you're basically training your body against your own limits,
yes.
not necessarily somebody else's. But we mentioned the Rio Olympics underway, which gives a lot of other media a chance to talk about what happens here in Oklahoma City. And CBS had another big story this weekend.
Yeah, Meow Smolin, who's another one of our big hopefuls in whitewater slalom, who was on the water here at our Olympic trials. He could make history for the United States as the first medalist in the kayak event, from male medalist in the kayak event. So that they did a story on him. It was all filmed here in Oklahoma City at our Whitewater Center. So another great national media coverage of our venue. I have to say, even in the Olympics on Saturday, the commentators referencing Oklahoma City as our rowers race. So certainly are great at getting some great national media exposure.
Speaking of such, Wired.com had a story of, and this was an interesting story. It listed like the top 8 cities in the world that are doing something with their river. Chicago came in first, and they do a great job with their river, even though they had to switch the flow from one way to the other to get it working for people. And then number 2, Oklahoma City, which is a reference to the things that you guys are doing down there.
Yeah, pretty awesome to be in that so high on that list, see where we are and being recognized in that regard. So it is exciting, and I think over the weekend, just having all those athletes here from all over the country. I mean, we had athletes from Hawaii here, and just raving about the venue. And it's in our own backyard, but when you have a story like that, and that in Wired magazine, ranking us among other cities, I think it is affirming and reminds us what we have here.
It's an interesting list. Medellin, Colombia came in number 4, and then a whole bunch of other national cities. All right, plenty of river sport action can be watched on the Olympics. We mentioned that the rapids and the canoe events, the rowing events are today, so be sure to tune into NBC or your favorite NBC outlet or online to catch up with that. Mike, we always appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by. And this weekend, floating films down at the river, and more information can be found at riversportokc.com, .org, I believe. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.